12. Types of political theories. Welcome to today's video. We're diving into the world of political theory, where ideas about power, justice, and society shape how we view the world. Political theory can be categorized into three main types: explanatory, normative, and contemplative. Let's explore each one in detail and see how thinkers like Karl Marx, Max Weber, and Hannah Arendt approached these different types of political thought. Explanatory political theory. Explanatory political theory is all about understanding how political and social systems come into existence. One of the most famous examples of this is Karl Marx's explanation of how capitalism emerged. Marx believed that human beings have a fundamental drive to improve their material well-being. This drive led to constant advancements in productive forces, things like tools and machines. But Marx also noted that these advancements could only happen within specific social relations. As productive forces develop, they outgrow old social systems, creating crises that force changes in how society is structured. This is how Marx explained the rise of capitalism, which he saw as a new set of social relations between capital owners and laborers. Max Weber's cultural explanation. Max Weber had a different take. He argued that capitalism couldn't have emerged without a major shift in the cultural climate, specifically the religious transformation brought about by the Protestant Reformation. Weber believed that the Protestant ethic, which emphasized disciplined work and asceticism, helped create the conditions necessary for capitalism to thrive. So for Weber, cultural factors played a key role in the birth of capitalism, alongside economic ones. Normative political theory. Next, we have normative political theory, which is all about what should be. Normative theorists don't just explain how things work, they evaluate what's right and wrong, fair and unfair. For example, imagine a debate in a country like India over whether the right to work should be legally guaranteed. One side argues that such a right should be enshrined in law to protect the poor, while the other side says welfare should be left to the discretion of elected representatives. A normative theorist would approach this issue by asking, what's fair? What promotes dignity and well-being for all citizens? Instead of relying on power or emotion, normative theory seeks to resolve these issues through rational argument. The right to work debate. In the debate over the right to work, normative theorists might start with basic assumptions. Everyone deserves a minimally decent life, and physical suffering should be avoided. But they also raise questions about dignity. Does relying on welfare schemes erode human dignity, or is guaranteeing the right to work a better solution? These are the kinds of questions normative political theory seeks to answer. Contemplative political theory. Finally, we have contemplative political theory, which invites us to step back and reflect on humanity's broader condition. Thinkers like Hannah Arendt use this approach to consider how politics and society fit into the long arc of human history. In her book The Human Condition, Arendt reflected on how advancements like space exploration and atomic power reshaped our understanding of what it means to be human. As an example, we have Hannah Arendt, a thinker who deeply examined the impact of modern advancements on humanity. In her works, she delves into what it means to be human in a world transformed by technology and rapid change. Continuing with Arendt's perspective, her work in The Human Condition reflects on how technological advancements, like space exploration and atomic energy, have redefined our sense of place in the universe. Arendt's reflections move beyond the boundaries of specific political systems to consider the long-term trajectory of humanity itself. Her contemplative approach makes us think about the fundamental questions that shape human life, urging us to ask not only what political systems we live under, but why we live the way we do, and how human existence has evolved with these advancements. 13. Little theories versus grand theories in political thought. Welcome back to our exploration of political thought. In today's video, we're diving into the difference between little theories and grand theories in political theory. These terms refer to the scale and scope of political theories, and understanding this distinction can give us a better grasp of how we view political ideas. Little theories explained. Let's start with little theories. These theories focus on a particular dimension of political life. They might emphasize explanation, like Max Weber's theory on the rise of capitalism, or a normative approach, like liberalism. Weber's explanation of how Protestant ethics influenced the development of capitalism is a great example of an explanatory little theory. It focuses on one historical and cultural shift, giving us a narrow but insightful perspective. Similarly, liberalism, which advocates for personal freedoms and equal rights, is an example of a normative little theory. It offers a framework for thinking about justice and rights, but doesn't necessarily explain the origins of these values in a specific society. What are grand theories? Now, what about grand theories? Unlike little theories, grand theories try to combine multiple dimensions of political theory. They not only explain how systems evolve, but also prescribe moral principles and offer deep reflections on human existence. A classic example is Marxism, which in some forms addresses all three dimensions: explanation, ethics, and philosophical contemplation. Marxism explains historical changes through class struggles, critiques the moral failings of capitalism, and contemplates what a just, free society might look like. This makes Marxism a grand theory, encompassing much more than just a narrow explanation or moral guideline. Grand theories versus ideologies. Now, it's important not to confuse grand theories with ideologies. Ideologies may offer a vision for society, but they often lack the depth and rigor of grand theories. For example, while communism as an ideology proposes a classless society, it may bypass deep philosophical inquiry or rational examination of contradictions. In contrast, Marxism as a grand theory pushes forward, constantly reflecting on and questioning its own assumptions. Conclusion. So why does this distinction matter? While little theories help us focus on specific political phenomena, while grand theories provide a broader, more comprehensive view of human society. And while ideologies are influential, grand theories engage in deeper reflection and critical inquiry. Understanding these differences helps us appreciate the complexity and scope of political thought. 14. Theory, ideology, and propaganda in political thought. Welcome to today's video, where we'll explore the fascinating relationship between political theory, ideology, and propaganda. These three concepts play key roles in shaping how we think about politics, society, and power. But what sets them apart, and where do they overlap? Let's find out. Political theory. Let's start with political theory. Political theory is all about providing the fullest reasoning for why a particular standpoint or action should be adopted. It involves deep engagement with principles, arguments, and rational thought. Grand theories, like Marxism or liberalism, operate as political theories when they offer comprehensive explanations of society, human nature, and morality. Political theory doesn't just tell us what to do, it tells us why we should do it and why one principle is better than another. It's a reasoned approach to political life, grounded in careful thought and analysis. Ideology. Now, let's talk about ideology. Unlike political theory, ideology tends to reduce complex ideas into formulaic, persuasive statements. Ideologies focus on converting people to a particular viewpoint, but they often bypass detailed reasoning. Instead of engaging deeply with principles, ideologies use simplified messages to achieve political goals. Even ideologies like liberalism and Marxism can fall into this trap when they function as ideologies. They may simplify their core principles, using slogans to rally supporters rather than engaging in deeper reflection. When this happens, they lose their connection to reason. Ideology in liberalism and Marxism. Interestingly, ideologies like liberalism and Marxism can function both as political theories and as ideologies. When they focus on rational arguments, they remain political theories. But when they are reduced to strategic tools or slogans, they become ideologies. This can even lead to internal conflict within these schools of thought. For example, a liberal political theorist might critique liberal ideology for oversimplifying ideas like freedom or equality. Propaganda. Now let's take this one step further with propaganda. Propaganda is an even more manipulative form of persuasion. While political theory and ideology may try to persuade using reason or slogans, propaganda often abandons both, relying on opaque, manipulative methods. In propaganda, the goal is conversion at any cost. Lies, half-truths, and emotional appeals are all fair game. Think of how advertising works. It exaggerates the good points of a product and hides the bad ones, using emotional appeal rather than rational argument. The role of emotion and rhetoric in politics. Now, while political theory emphasizes reason, that doesn't mean there's no room for emotion or rhetoric in politics. Emotion can galvanize movements, and rhetoric can inspire action. However, these elements should not overwhelm reason and rational thought. A healthy political sphere finds a balance between emotional appeal and clear reasoning. Shared features of theory, ideology, and propaganda. Despite their differences, political theory, ideology, and propaganda share a common goal. They all try to create a shared understanding of the world and provide a sense of identity. While political theory aims for depth and reasoning, ideologies and propaganda focus on broader, more accessible messages. In some cases, they can even complement each other in shaping how people view society and politics. So what can we take away from this? Political theory, ideology, and propaganda each play a role in how we think about politics. Political theory prioritizes reason, while ideologies simplify complex ideas, and propaganda. 15. Cosmologies and Political Theory in Modern Societies. Welcome to today's video, where we're diving deep into the relationship between cosmologies and political theory. In traditional societies, cosmologies, those systems of thought that explain the universe and our place in it, guided social and political life. But as societies evolved and became more interconnected, the role of cosmologies began to fall short. In modern times, we need something more. That's where political theory comes in. But why exactly is political theory so crucial in today's world? Let's find out. What are cosmologies? First, let's define what we mean by cosmologies. A cosmology is a worldview, a system of thought that explains the universe and our place in it. In many traditional societies, cosmologies shaped not only religion and culture, but also politics. They offered guidance on how to live, what is right, and how power should be used. However, there's one big issue with cosmologies. They're often local and tied to specific contexts. While they worked well for small, isolated communities, modern societies are much more complex and interconnected. Why cosmologies fall short in modern times? Modern societies are no longer isolated. With globalization and the rise of nation-states, people from diverse cultural backgrounds and cosmologies are now living side by side. Cosmologies, which are tightly tied to local contexts, can't address the challenges that come with this diversity. They simply aren't equipped to navigate the complex, overlapping realities we face today. This is where political theory becomes essential. Unlike cosmologies, political theory can provide intercontextual thinking, offering ideas that apply across different contexts and communities. Crisis of mutual understanding. One of the biggest challenges in modern society is the crisis of mutual understanding. With people from different backgrounds living together, agreement on key issues can be hard to achieve. But political theory provides a way to manage these differences. By offering conceptual clarity, political theory allows us to communicate more effectively. It helps us argue our differences and, through reasoned discussion, resolve, or at least manage them. The collapse of a single source of authority. Another feature of modern society is the collapse of a single source of authority. In traditional societies, cosmologies often gave answers from one dominant source, like religion or community leaders. Today, there are multiple sources of authority. Political, social, and religious institutions all have a voice. Political theory provides a space where these different voices can communicate and reason together. It offers a platform for dialogue where ideas can be challenged, debated, and refined. The urgency of normative political theory. In today's world, the questions posed by normative political theory are more urgent than ever. Questions like how should we live? What values should guide our society? How do we balance freedom, equality, and justice? These questions can't be answered easily. The old certainties that guided traditional societies are gone. In their place, political theory helps us justify our values, whether it's democracy, secularism, or equality, by reasoning through their importance and application in the modern world. To sum up, while cosmologies serve traditional societies, modern, interconnected societies need political theory. Political theory helps us understand complex social dynamics, communicate across different cultural contexts, and guide our actions based on reasoned principles.